Hey, Dan Meyer here, and today we're going to talk about 10 best practices for analytics success. Yay, more nerd stuff. So, for those of you that are following me because you love data, this one's for you. For those of you that are learning about data, trying to figure out how to make sense of your numbers, I'll keep it layman as well, right? So the cool thing about data is you can take it at whatever level you are at. And one of the best practices I'll talk about is just doing just this. So just so you know, this is going to be something that I am going to borrow a really cool article that I read from a woman named BETH STACKPOL about analytics. And I'm taking and giving you her 10 best practices through my eyes and based on my experience. And again, for those of you that don't know me that well, basically I'm a nerd and I've used my nerdness to make money. My whole entire career for the last 30 years has been based on me being able to crunch numbers to help business decision makers make decisions, both in corporate world, for Wells Fargo, then for a lot of my clients, as well as with small business entrepreneurs like myself, right? So I have that nerd background and I figured out how to use data to drive decision-making, whether it be at a huge multinational company or a small mom and pop business. So here's how we do it, right? There are 3 bedrock principles that Beth talks about. Number 1 is that you have to take an analytics view. Take an analytics view of the data. And what that means is that you want to reconcile questions, right? Analytics works when you're asking questions. Why are my sales down? Why am I not able to penetrate this market? Why are my competitors getting more market share than me? You have to have a bunch of questions. And when you have these questions, that's when you apply analytics to find the data to answer the question, right? So being able to take that view of using data for analysis. A lot of us use data to report where we're at, to look at what we're doing. And that's part of it. But really at its core, analytics is all about answering questions, right? Providing reasons, causes, solutions, projections, predictions, all because you're trying to figure out what has happened, what is happening, or what will happen. And you use the data to do that, right? So think about the questions in your business. Everyone should be able to say, what's the burning question you have right now about my business? What am I trying to figure out? What is my next day of work all about? What am I trying to solve? What am I trying to grow? What am I trying to fix? Answering that question with data is the answer. The second thing is think about how to source data strategically. Look at the big long-term picture. What is all the data you're going to need to answer these big questions? How do you get it? Where's it stored? How do you access it? A lot of people get bogged down in too much data or don't have enough data because they don't have a structure in place to constantly refresh and bring in new data. And so they keep asking the same question, the same data, and they keep getting the same answer. And things change, right? We live in a dynamic world where the things that we decide today may not be the same thing we should decide next week. And we have to look at the difference in the data over that week to know for sure, should we keep doing what we're doing, right? So think about where you get your data. For some of us, it's data that we get through transactions and things we can get in our bank accounts. Some of it's like production data, inventory data, fulfillment data. What are we making, sending out? How our clients are, where do they live, what are the demographics of our clients, who's our target market, where do they live, what zip code do they live in, what is their age, what is their gender, what is their ethnic makeup, what is their educational background. We should know the geographics and demographics of our target market. We should also know about our competitors. What are our competitors doing? What's our pricing? Is our pricing what we're doing based on our ability for us to make a profit? And how does that compare to our competition? Are we overpricing or underpricing what we do? All this stuff has to be sourced and constantly fed into your decision-making process. So think about all the data you have out there. I always think about making a massive flow chart of all the things that I need to do, all the data I have to gather, and how I funnel it from all this data, funnel it down into the key decision-making data points or metrics, or what we call key performance indicators, KPIs, that we need to decide. And for a lot of us, the most important KPI is how much money are we making? And then of that money we're making, is it making a profit for us? And then beyond that, what can we do to be more efficient, to offer new services, to stop doing ones that don't make money? We make a lot of decisions based on that key performance indicator, number 1. So the third point, according to Beth, is move your analytics projects to analytics products. A lot of us think of analytics in terms of projects, right? We look at how to generate measurable financial benefit from data over time, not just at one time. So a lot of us think very much like, okay, what am I going to do in the next month? And we're not looking at what I want to do next month, next 2 months, next 3 months, next 16 months, next 24 months. And we also want to think about how we build products out of our data. Not just what our data tells us, but what our data tells us about everything around us. Analytics products generate measurable financial benefit. Your insight into your data is something that you can monetize. I've done talks before and we'll talk again about how to monetize your data. This is one of the things that Beth says is one of the best practices, is think about how to use not just your data for your decision making in the here and now, but how do you look at it in the bigger picture of all the data out there. So that's the first 3. Now she goes into 7 general rules of the road, right? So these are more tactical things that you should be doing with your data. Number 1, tie stakeholder goals to questions to keep key performance indicators, right? So who are the decision makers in your business? For some of us, that's us. For some of us, we are the only decision maker. For some of us, we have partners. For some of us, we have teams, we have boards, we have, the bigger you get, the more decision makers and stakeholders you have. How do you make sure you're answering all their questions? And how do you deliver to them key performance indicators so they know that things are going in the right direction? I used to say when I was at Wells Fargo that the most important metric was the one that would make my boss's blood pressure raise the highest if it was going in the negative direction, right? So what metrics cause drama? What are things that if you don't do them well, you're going to have trouble in your business? And how do you measure those things to know that trouble's coming? How do you prevent that trouble? Or if a trouble starts to happen, how do you mitigate it and get things back to normal? You need to know how to measure those things. Every business is different, but you should all be able to answer quickly, what is your most important KPI? What are your most important key performance indicators to your stakeholders, even if you're the only stakeholder? For a small business owner, probably the most important KPI is how much cash you got in your checking account. That could be your most important metric. But if it's not, you need to know what it is. Number 2, build high performance analytics teams, right? You have to surround yourself with nerds. This is how I started my career, right? I'm a numbers guy. I can look at data and find patterns and make sense of it. I love taking tools that take massive data sets and squeezing it and funneling it and pulling out, extracting insights that I can then share with people to make good decisions. Now, whether you're doing it on a scale like Wells Fargo where you have thousands of people doing analytics, or you're doing it in your own business, you need to have at least one person doing it part of the time. A good rule of thumb for a small business owner or a solopreneur is spend a couple hours every Friday looking at your data. You want to block off a couple of hours a week to review your numbers, to make sure you're hitting your market, hitting your goal, hitting your targets, and making adjustments to not being able to do that. If we're not doing that on a weekly basis, we're going to go off stray. We're going to put too much work into things that aren't giving us the bang for the buck we're looking for. If you can't do it yourself, if you look at a spreadsheet and you just get a nosebleed, if your head just blows up when you look at data, hire someone to do that for you. Hire an analyst. There are some amazing virtual assistants that can do analytics stuff. And the cool thing about analytics is most of the data out there is already out there for free. For example, if you're using any social media platform to be able to run your business through, if you're using Facebook or YouTube or Google, whatever you're using, they give you free analytics. Plus you have all the analytics that you get and do in your business. Again, starting with your checking account, starting with your lead list, your customer database, looking at all the data you have available to you is easy to pull it together and do analysis if you know how to do it and you have a passion for it. But if you don't, outsource it. Hire a VA to do your analytics. Number 3, build data literacy by focusing on descriptive analytics and key performance indicators. Okay, this is a bit of a nosebleed for a lot of us, but let me break it down. Build data literacy, meaning you're using data and you know it, you can speak about it, you can understand it. Again, if this is not you, get a partner, get a business VA, get somebody in your business to help you build this data literacy so they can speak numbers and make sense of it. One of my greatest gifts that made me so successful at my time at Wells Fargo and when I turned into my first business after I left Wells Fargo is because I can take complicated data sets and break it down to the 3 bullet points that a decision maker who is not a numbers person needs to know to make decisions. Wells Fargo, when I was there, we did a lot of really cool stuff where I was looking at massive data sets and boiling it down to the 3 bullet points on one slide that the decision makers could look at and go, okay, this is what new state we launch a product in. Okay, this is what checking account product that we try to push to this demographic in this zip code. All that stuff was like easy for them because I would boil it down to just what they needed to know. Building data literacy, focusing on descriptive analytics and key performance indicators. If this is Greek to you, hire a VA. If this is not Greek to you, then think about how you need to do that to have more descriptive in the moment, real-time data about what you're doing with your KPIs. The next thing that Beth talks about is make compliance an integral part of analytics. Now, again, you think compliance, analytics, you think a big corporate, that's definitely where you put a lot of effort. If you're running a big business, you're making sure that you're compliant with legal, with things, you want to make sure that you're meeting requirements for reporting, you're looking to avoid fraud, you're mitigating risk. But even in a small business, in an individual business, you have to mitigate risk, you have to prevent fraud, you have to identify when people are doing things that you don't want them to be doing. And you want to make sure that you're complying with your own code of ethics, your own core values, as well as any legal requirements you have to meet in whatever it is you're doing. So make compliance data driven. Make sure that you're using your data to measure if you are being compliant with whatever rules you're trying to follow. Number 5, Beth talks about refining analytics models continuously, right? One of the problems with a lot of analytics solutions out there is that we build something and we don't think long term. It goes back to the idea of analytics projects are not what we're trying to build. We're trying to build products, right? We're trying to be able to do not only something that will solve a problem for here and now, but something that will grow and evolve. And when you want to refine your products and you want to use technology to do this, one of the cool things about analytics is the AI, the use of artificial intelligence, the use of machine learning, the practice of data science, using the skills of data storytelling. They've evolved and added so much value that for a lot of companies, analytics is no longer just what you see in a spreadsheet. It's everything that goes on behind the scenes before data gets into the spreadsheet. And there's so much there. The cutting edge of analytics is where Google is where Facebook is. And all you need to do is look at what happens when you go on to Google and you look for a vacation, a tropical retreat. You're going to go spend a week with your family in the Bahamas. You think about that. You want to do it sometime next year. You're kind of getting an idea of pricing. You go on to Google, you type family vacation in the Bahamas, and boom. You're done. You walk away. You get distracted. You don't buy anything. You don't purchase anything. You just have an idea what it's going to cost and where you're going to go, but you haven't made any decisions. 2 minutes later, you're on Facebook and in your newsfeed pops up an ad for a family-themed resort in the Bahamas in the month of April, targeted to you, not just everyone, but you, right? The ad they're sending to your neighbor and to somebody else on the other part of the country that's doing the same search at the same time is going to be a different targeted ad because models are constantly being refined and in this case, made personal. All that said, there's so much out there. Again, if we're at a point in this video where you're like, okay, Dan, yeah, this is cool, but I can never do this myself. I'm too busy. I don't have the skill set. Then that's why you hire one of the VAs from Sonic VA to do it for you. Number 6, support analytics with governance, right? You have to have rules about how you manage your data. When I do a consulting with companies and trying to figure out why they're having trouble, and I look at their data, the way they govern their data, the way they manage the data, the way the data is structured in databases, the access people have, the way decision makers have to go through a process to get the data they want, to have it analyzed, and to extract the insights is cumbersome, is backwards, is a problem. I've spent many, many, many hours of my life looking at data sets and going like, well, this data is the wrong data, or it's not complete, or it's old. This is not what you're going to be able to do run your business off of. We got to fix this and update this and refresh this and boom, then you have good data. And to do all those changes, you have to document them. You have to put rules around them. This is data governance, a key part of good analytics. And this is what Beth talks about. The last thing that Beth talks about as a good practice is use data storytelling, right? So storytelling is basically storytelling, but with data, right? Data storytelling, whereas you use a narrative, you craft a narrative where people are looking at the data as it takes them from a point of interest to understanding to action, right? So you're driving behavior. You're really trying to get people to do something because you're building a narrative that explains to them this is what the data says we should do, this is how we should do it, this is why we should do it, and this is what we should expect to happen once we have done it. When you can use data storytelling, it's very powerful. That's the way to influence your clients, your customers, your employees, your partners. You actually are trying to use data to influence their decisions based on what the data tells you should be done. That's one way to look at data storytelling. Now, each of these components are things that I have talked about on other videos you can check out in more detail, but I wanted to share with you this cool write-up from Beth about 10 best practices for analytics success that really you can't ignore. So that's my talk for today, right? I mentioned a couple times, if this is your cup of tea, And you're a data person, you're a nerd, and you want to be an analyst, think about how to add this value to your business. If you're a business owner of a medium or large business, or an executive in management, think about these rules, how to improve the decision making in your business. If you're a small business owner and you want to tackle some of it yourself, awesome. I do it myself too. But if you need help, whether you're working for a big company, a medium company, or a small company, we have virtual assistants that can do that for you. We can build business dashboards, which are ways to display data in a visual that allows you to make quick decisions. We can prepare elements for your data storytelling. We also have VAs that can help make YouTube videos, create graphic designs, and manage your social media. Sonic Analytics, we're all about building consistency, clarity, and certainty in your business. And the key to being consistent and having clarity and building certainty is being data driven. So I hope that helped. That's my talk for today. I want to thank you for your time. Now I encourage you to go out and analyze some data.